Today I'm at the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. I love this spot. Parking is very accessible and it's right next to the Brooklyn Museum. Welcome to my channel, NBC Lifestyles Diary. My name is Marie. I live in New York. I love fashion, traveling and entertaining, cultural events, and I'm asking you to join me on the adventure. So the first building that we're in has the restrooms and a small coffee shop and all these interesting things about the plants that you'll be seeing and some of the things in which they hold courses in. And since this is such a beautiful structure, as in all things New York, when you have an interesting place, it can be used as a wedding venue or a party venue. So Washington, D.C. is famous for the cherry blossoms and it's a big tourist attraction. But right here in Brooklyn, we have our own. This is the famous Cherry Blossom Walk, established in 1921. So this is a popular springtime destination, as is this garden, where you do have to pay for admission. But when you come in February, when nothing is blooming, it's pay what you want. I've seen this garden at all phases: spring, summer, winter, fall, and it's gorgeous in all the seasons. This is so pretty how it opens up, and you have a sign leading to the conservatories, which is the hot houses. But there's a real gem hidden right behind me. Here we are by the babbling brook. So whoever planned this wonderful park to include the Brooklyn Museum, Prospect Park, which is free, the Brooklyn Botanical, and the Brooklyn Zoo. It's a wonderful wonderland. The Brooklyn Botanical Garden was established in 1897. 37 acres were reserved for this purpose. And of course, the go-to firm, landscaping and park establishing firm of the Olmsted brothers was used. The Olmsteds, their father did Central Park, and then the sons went on to have their own firm, and they did Fort Tryon Park in Upper Manhattan and the Brooklyn Botanical and Prospect Park here. That's the beautiful thing about New York. There are 5 boroughs. There's Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island, Brooklyn, and the Bronx. And each borough has its own botanical garden, own zoo, and its own large public park, all laid out with the intent of preserving nature. So this pathway leads to the Japanese House and Hill Garden, and this path that leads to it is known as the Celebrity Pathway, and it lists all the individual celebrities that were born and flourished in Brooklyn. I'm at the Alfred T. White Memorial. This memorial and amphitheater was dedicated in 1923 to honor Brooklyn Botanical Garden's first benefactor, the philanthropist and housing reformer Alfred Treadway White, who wished to bring the beauty of nature to city dwellers. The plaque is by Daniel Chester French, primary sculptor of the Lincoln Memorial, and the seat and tablet are by Henry Bacon, the Lincoln Memorial's architect. is called the Japanese House and Pond Garden, and it was created or designed by Taeko Shioto in 1915, and it was the first Japanese house in the United States. I love this Japanese hill and pond garden, maybe because I've never been to Japan and it's a romantic version of what I've seen in pictures and travel logs. It does inspire me to go. This being the first Japanese house established in 1915 and designed by Takeo Shioto is fascinating, and I've missed this the first time I came to this park. So it's like a little gem that I've discovered. Also, there's beautiful Japanese houses in Palm Beach, because I didn't know that there were a community of Japanese that lived in Florida at the time and cultivated plants. Help me. I have to go downstairs. So the Brooklyn Museum was established to learn about plants and nature, and they established a children's garden. They established a fragrance garden for those children that are blind so that they could use their tactile and their sense of smell to appreciate the plant life. Also, in the winter, they do this wonderful light show in the garden in which it's totally transformed with all these different sculptures of light. The first place that I experienced that was at Fairchild Tropical Gardens in Miami, where they had the Chihuly exhibit. Chihuly, the famous glassmaker, would transform the entire garden. Also, guess what? Fairchild Tropical Garden, the site plan was also done by the Olmsted brothers. There's a bonsai exhibit in the conservatory, and at the entrance is this beautiful tree, and the story behind it, it's called a fudo, and legend has it that this tree, already with many centuries of life behind it, was removed from its mountain home by an old man in Itakawa River. It eventually became part of the famous bonsai man, Mr. Kyozo Murato, and sadly, the tree died in 1971, some months after arriving from Japan. The botanists were able to conclude by counting its many rings that it was at least 800 years old. So here in this exhibit, they show the history of the bonsai. They show the pots and tools that are to be used. They show some of the techniques, and they also give the history of the bonsai as a living sculpture, the focal point of a scene in miniature. Potted plants, long cherished by the Chinese, were originally used for decoration. They eventually came to represent landscapes admired in nature. The excavation in Shaanxi province of a royal tomb from the Tang Dynasty uncovered a mural that shows court attendants bearing potted landscapes with small trees. These were the penjing, or scenes in a shallow tray. In Japan, a picture scroll from the year 1195 depicting the life of a priest features a potted tree. I really do admire the art of the bonsai because I cannot even keep a plant alive. This is the warm temperate garden. Warm temperate garden means a climate with dry, hot summers and cold, wet nights. The tropical rainforest, layers of it. Oh, look at that. Feels like Florida to me. I feel so thirsty. I feel parched. Water. Water, please. Ouch! Ow, 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 ow. So this reminds me of the mangroves in Florida. I guess I'm missing Florida, folks, because I keep making references to it. So this also reminds me of Florida because this we found very often, also used as decorative motifs. And that's the orchid, where it's so humid that the roots can take moisture from the air. Unique flower structures, and virtually all orchids have developed special relationships with specific pollinators such as insects. About 70% of orchids are epiphytes, which grow on other plants rather than growing in the ground, terrestrial. Fascinating. with the sound of geese. Ah! Wisteria. I love this bird bath with a beautiful poem written on it. For thee who loves both man and bird. This is known as Daffodil Hill. Thousands of trumpet daffodils bloom here in the spring, anchored by the hybrid oak. So pretty, so pretty. I actually love it this time of the year, even though nothing's blooming. You see the promise of spring, but I love that you see the structure of the park and it's not crowded and the price is perfect. It's the rose arc, and in the spring as the roses start to bloom, this whole area is decorated with flowers and this beautiful fountain. So here's a whole section dedicated to roses, and it's called the Cranford Rose Garden. And every time I come here, I think, I beg your pardon, I never promised you a rose garden along with the sunshine. Yes, my singing is fantastic. Ready? Cranford Rose Garden. This garden opened in 1928, holds one of the largest collections of roses in North America. With more than 1,000 species and cultivars, these beds showcase the history and diversity of the rose. The garden's north beds contain mostly modern roses, those bred since 1867, with ramblers and climbers on the pillars. The beds along the fence and in the south garden contain species, heritage and old garden roses, some of which are mystery roses of unknown origin. Rosa, Duchess de Brabant, 1857. The tea rose arrived in England from China around 1810 and was so called for its fragrance, similar to a fresh box of tea. It lent its flower form and repeat blooming trait to modern hybrid tea roses. This cultivar was favored by President Theodore Roosevelt for his lapel. I beg your pardon, I never promised you a rose garden along with the sunshine. There's gotta be a little rain sometimes. My cameraman is cringing, but too bad. Please like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.